Before we begin today's episode, I just want to let you guys know that today's book does talk about violence and children, so viewer discretion is advised. Please proceed with caution. Thank you. Hello, my reading rock stars. It's June here. Welcome back to the Noble channel. And wherever you are around the world, I hope you guys are staying safe and feeling fabulous. Today's featured read is a little dark and very disturbing, kind of like me. So let's get rolling. Today we will take a look at Lullaby by Leila Slimani. Now, most of you may have seen a similar cover, but with the title The Perfect Nanny. The Perfect Nanny is the version published by Penguin Random House. This version here is published by Faber and Faber. The author, Leila Slimani, was actually inspired by a tragic event of 2012 where a New York nanny murdered her two young charges, ages 2 and 6, who then tried to take her own life, but was unsuccessful. When Miriam, a brilliant French-Moroccan lawyer, decides to return to work after having kids, she and her husband could not believe their luck when they found Louise as the nanny to look after their two young children. She was quiet, polite, very dedicated, and appeared to single-handedly be able to keep their very chic apartment in the 10th arrondissement in Paris running like clockwork. She cooked, she cleaned, she stayed back beyond her regular working hours and cooked amazing meals for their parties without any complaint. And she did such a good job that, Miriam and her husband began hosting their friends, and they became the envy of their friends because, they could then focus on their work. And the children were happy and they come home to some amazing food. But where does Louise go after work? And why does she arrive at her workplace hours ahead only to lurk around until it is an appropriate time to knock on the door of her employers? Does anyone even know Louise well at all? Like, does Miriam and her husband know everything about Miriam? Do they care to find out? This story highlights the complex and often very delicate relationship between employers and employees, especially in this kind of very intimate setting, because the employee is now in their most personal and their most private space, their home, their sanctuary. Now the Marcies, which is Miriam's family, have taken in Louis into their fold, and they have gone out of their way to make her feel less like an employee and more like a family, trying to include her in all their evening soirees and all that sort of thing. They are so dependent on her, and having the freedom to pursue their own careers and ambition and the time and some me time, that's pretty hard to give up. So much so that when there were already signs that things are not all that, they choose to overlook. Especially for Miriam, who's told that she's got potential, and with a second baby, becoming a stay-home mom, it started to appear like that would be such a waste. And Louis' presence and mannerisms after a while starts to grate Paul, that's Miriam's husband. But still, it was hard to give up the luxury of having a super nanny slash domestic help, slash Mary Poppins. And the relationship starts to deteriorate after a while, and things begin to get awkward. Now, this book is the winner of the prestigious French Literary Prize, Prix Goncourt. Leila Slimani is the 12th woman to win this prize, so hooray for girl power. Now, the book garnered a lot of attention and won praises from many quarters, so my expectations were high, okay? But looking at how thick this book is, or I should say how thick this book is not, I was actually wondering how the author could pack everything in here and pack enough to convince an entire panel to win a prize, right? And it begins with the tragic conclusion to the events that will, of course, unravel as you progress with the book. A brave move for which I applaud the author, because when you start with the conclusion, then there is actually no build-up anymore. There is nothing to solve. There is nothing to look forward to. So I read this book with a sense of foreboding. But then again, I read it because my dark sense of curiosity was piqued, and so I just needed to read it and find out more what all the rage was about. But not everyone feels the same way. I read some reviews online. Some people were not really happy that it starts out the way it does. Perhaps people are right to feel that this is not a thriller, and maybe that's exactly what Leila Slimani is not trying to do. Her book is more an exploration of characters, of people, their strengths, their failings, their flaws, and how we deal with relationships, especially between the different social status, the class divide, who we pretend to be in front of others versus who we really are. Is Lullaby the next Gone Girl? I'm not sure if that's a fair comparison, because the Gone Girl story is a thriller with all the twist and turn, and it keeps you guessing right to the end. Now with Lullaby or The Perfect Nanny, you already know what happens from the very beginning. It results in death. For me, I feel this is probably a study of the power in people, the class divide, of race, of gender roles and expectations. And perhaps in not saying much, it does make a reader think a little harder and question your stereotyping about people, and consider other possibilities. If you want something that is presented in neat little packages with all the loose ends tied up, perhaps this book may not be for you. While not everyone may be thrilled by the way this story is delivered, I personally think this is actually an excellent choice for a book club discussion, because there are so many themes that you guys can, pick up from this book and discuss, and I'm sure your book club discussion will last for hours. I did enjoy reading this book. I guess I can say that I liked it, but I would not say that I love it. But the parts that I do like are, I guess because I'm that kind of person who likes to explore characters, to look at how people behave and all that. So there are a couple of observations here, and I know that a lot of readers felt the same way as well. It is how the role of looking after children have always been the responsibility of the mother, and so that was also pretty much the case I felt in this book, that Miriam, as the wife and mother, is the person who seems to take a little bit more interest in the children. Her husband, or the father, I feel is not featured very much, does not create a significant impact in this book as far as I'm concerned. Of course he has a role to play, but I just felt that he, I don't know, I guess I felt that he was a little bit immature and a little bit selfish in some ways. Again, that's something that, if you guys are going to discuss this in a book club discussion, you can talk about that as well. Whether you think that, despite us being in the year 2020, how our gender roles and expectations, have we moved forward, or are things still, a long way to go before we reach equality? Okay. If you guys have read this book, please drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. I've been really wanting to read this book for so long, because you guys know I am a true crime buff. So when I found out that this book was actually based on a true crime, inspired by true events, I realized that I had to check it out, and I finally got around to doing it. Love it? No. Like it? Yes. Let me know what you think if you have read it. Leila Slimani, the author, she is a migrant herself, having moved from Morocco to Paris. So I think she brings her own experience and what she's seen from another side of life, you know, the discrimination and the racism that she had experienced. She takes us out of the more fancy side of life in Paris to where the other half lives. Here we delve into the world of the Louises, you know, the immigrants, the refugees, the migrant community, the asylum seekers, the low-wage earners, and often the seedier side of town, but an absolute reality. While we're here, let's take a moment to appreciate the work of the translator, and in this case, Lullaby or The Perfect Nanny is translated by Sam Taylor. That's all for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to give us a thumbs up if you have enjoyed the video. Give us a thumbs up even if you have not enjoyed the video, because it doesn't cost you a thing. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and turn the notification bell on so you do not miss out on anything. Until I see you again, remember to be kind and be brave. Bye!